It's a bad guy. He just quit, you know. He's quitting the race.
Is that right?
Yep, I got him out of the race. And that means we have Kamala. I think she's going to be better. She's so bad. She's so pathetic. She's just so fucking bad, so I just can't imagine.
Roberts pointed out that the former Democratic presidential candidate Bloomberg made this exact move, and they dismissed complaints. He transferred $18 million to the DNC after he poured more than $1 billion. He dropped $1 billion? Oh my God. See, that's what I'm talking about. $100 million, that ain't nothing.
They let the accused killer out because of lack of capacity. They paroled him illegally. I think the criminality of the Biden border policy should be looked at.
Donald Trump roasts Kamala as Van Jones says the Democrats are in panic mode. The whole party's melting down. They have this nice little facade on the front of what they're talking about, saying that it's all okay, we support Joe, and we're going to be here raising money for him and just vote accordingly. But behind the scenes, they don't know what to do. Joe Biden's got an interview coming up. He's got another debate that he threw out there saying, make my day, pal. Come on, talk to me, all this. Now they're free. And there are big questions about the money. What do we do with all this money? We had lunatics like Bloomberg write $20 million checks, then realize that they can't cancel those checks after the debate. Money's cleared, no refunds. Thanks for being a Democrat. But Trump was out after the news came that Kamala might be a number 2. And I think really the strategy here is to just boost them both. You don't need to boost one or the other. You boost them both. So it's a bundle package. It's a 2-for-1 deal. And if Joe keels over, no worries, you got Kamala. So they're going to boost her, and Kamala's on the team because she knows that he is going to keel over any minute and she'll be ready to go. So she's fine. I'm on board. Yeah, sure. I'll be a part of this package deal. We'll win. It's the best shot to keep the money, to keep the momentum. And if they got to nuke Joe at the very last minute, she'll slot in there and they'll just march on forward. So they're stronger together than apart. But Trump is now realizing that this is not looking so good for them. And he posted about this on True Social, saying no tax on tips as he's handing out $100 donos like it ain't nothing. And he is asked about the debate and he comments, here's what he said.
You gave me so much. How did I do with the debate the other night?
Oh, amazing.
Kicked that old broken down pile of crap.
Yeah.
It's a bad guy. He just quit, you know. He's quitting the race.
Is that right?
Yep, I got him out of the race. And that means we have Kamala. I think she's going to be better. She's so bad. She's so pathetic. She's just so fucking bad, so I just can't imagine. But can you imagine that guy dealing with Putin and the president of China, who's a fierce person? He's a fierce man, a very tough guy. And they see him, they probably, he can't. But they just announced he's probably quitting.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Just keep knocking him out, right?
Thank you.
Let's go. All right, so we'll just keep knocking him out. You sure will, Mr. President, and we'll be right here behind you as you do. Now, while this is all happening, Democrats are freaked. Here was Van Jones yesterday on with CNN. They had this whole panel out there. This came over from Poppy Trumpo. What's up, Poppy Trumpo? Shared this one saying that, yeah, look, behind the scenes, things are pretty bad. You might all be sitting around here, Kinzinger, pretending like it's all glory and we're going to beat Trump. Whoa, whoa, whoa. No, not happening. You're all crying and freaked out. Here's Van Jones.
I'm just going to be honest. I mean, everybody comes on the air and says all this great stuff, but behind the scenes, it's a full-scale panic. People are passing around legal memos. PDFs are flying back and forth on WhatsApp, trying to figure out what are the options. How can you replace Biden? How do you get him to do it in a way where he feels respected as he should be respected? Who should Kamala Harris's vice president be? The conversation on air and the conversation off air are completely different, but he may not be able to get across the finish line. A mature party has to take that into account, and that is what's happening. And so, look, I understand people want to defend him and protect him and give him the space and the dignity to make his own choice, but there is a big conversation happening right now about how this happens, not whether.
How we remove Joe, not whether. All right, so that is Van Jones acknowledging that there is a serious problem here, and the reason why Kamala might be a strong pick is because of the cash. What happens to that money? Lots of money. Now, if Biden leaves, what happens? He's facing growing pressure to get out, but now there's a question about what happens with the money, tens of millions of dollars. Lloyd Doggett and others are calling for him to drop out, but Biden said there's $240 million in their war chest. That's a lot. But neither the campaign nor the DNC responded to questions about how much the total was in the president's campaign versus the National Party Committee. And while the DNC would still control the party funds, the committee funds, Biden would have control over his campaign committee's slice, although that exact breakdown is unknown. The Biden campaign said it had nearly 91 million cash on hand. DNC said it had 65 million. All right, so look, I mean, that's a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but is it that much really in the context of the presidency? I mean, it'll probably be what, like a total of $2 billion that's usually spent. $1 billion, I think it was like the 2016 numbers. So by the time we get to November, what's it going to be? $2 billion. So what's $100 million? You can't have some billionaire or like 5 billionaires donate 20 million to make up that deficit. You can't get Bloomberg to drop another 20 and Zuckerberg to drop a 20, and you have Bezos drops a 20. They'll all drop 20 mil, no problem. So they could make up, let's say you kick Biden out, you lose $100 million because he takes that money with him. So what? They go get another 100 mil? That can't be it. Campaign finance lawyers said the Biden campaign and the president himself would have a number of available avenues for the campaign committee cash. Even if Biden is not the nominee, he would have the authority to tell the campaign what to do with the funds. So he could transfer it. He could just say, just give it over to them. Tom Moore, former counsel and chief of staff with the FEC, said the money can go several places. It could all go to VP Harris, or it could all go to the DNC, or anything in between. So it's free. But Joe Biden has to want to do something with it. I think that's the other problem. Like, does Joe Biden just say, if you kick me out, I'm taking my money. But if you kick me out and you give it to someone else, maybe who I approve, maybe I'll give you some. Last week's debate unexpectedly thrust Harris into the foreground. She is his likely successor, although she'd probably face competition, but she says she fully supports him. Contributions to other candidates would be subject to contribution limits, but since Harris is a candidate, she wouldn't really be receiving leftover funds. So as long as she becomes the nominee, the campaign funds can seed her new campaign and be spent as though Biden was the nominee. So that's another reason why it makes sense. But it could also go to the DNC or a super PAC. Sounds like, but it could not go to another candidate, right? So it could go to the DNC, but not to like Newsom. They couldn't give it over to Whitmer, but it could go to the DNC or it could go to a super PAC. Roberts pointed out that the former Democratic presidential candidate Bloomberg made this exact move, and they dismissed complaints. He transferred $18 million to the DNC after he poured more than $1 billion. He dropped $1 billion? Oh my God. See, that's what I'm talking about. $100 million, that ain't nothing. So if you just got to pay Biden to go away, they can figure that out. So Biden campaign has not reported any donations or loans from the candidate. So the money could go back into Democratic causes, but it just wouldn't go to a different candidate is what it sounds like, because there's contribution limits for those other candidates. If a candidate other than Biden or Harris at the top of their ticket, there you go, their campaign would be starting from scratch. I believe they would likely be able to raise a lot of money very quickly, and any money that's sitting in a dark money group or super PAC could be redirected. But Biden's main re-election super PAC, right? So there's a lot of money out there too. Here's what CNN said about this. This is their reporting, their analysis on it. Let's see what they said. Takes a look at the latest fundraising numbers for Biden. Here's a bit.
As the Biden campaign is facing, there is now this one just out in the New York Times. Netflix co-founder becomes one of the biggest Democratic donors to call for Biden to step aside.
Where can he go?
That would be Reed Hastings, telling the Times, quote, Biden needs to step aside to allow a vigorous Democratic leader to beat Trump and keep us safe and prosperous. The campaign, by the way, took in $127 million last month. CNN senior data reporter Harry Enton joins us now with more on the money front, namely who that money belongs to, if not the president. So if the president were to decide, by the way, this is a major if,
of course,
to leave the race, who exactly would have access to his cash? And would that be only one candidate, or could it be others?
Yeah, if there is one candidate who isn't Joe Biden who would have access to that cash, it would be the vice president of the United States. She's on those FCC forms with him. She, according to law, she has access to it. Any other candidate, if the Democrats decide to nominate any other candidate, they could not access that cash.
Great chart. Love that.
That's tens of millions of dollars, I think, cash on hand.
Under no circumstances? Or could Harris say, I'm opening this up?
She herself can have it, but no, it cannot go to the other candidates. It cannot go to them.
So would Biden have any input onto how that money is spent if he were to say, let me write a proviso here, right?
Yeah. So Biden himself could form a PAC, right? And he could decide, you know what, I'm going to do an independent expenditure and I can spend it. But here's the deal. It is written in the law that candidates, their money goes further on television advertisements. They get a discount if they're candidates. A PAC does not get those discounts. So his money wouldn't necessarily go as far. More than that, he can't really coordinate with the campaign. If let's say it's not Harris and let's say he decides to form this PAC, he can't coordinate with him.
Communication.
Exactly right. It would be very, very difficult for them to understand, okay, this is where I necessarily want that money to be spent.
Because our campaign finance laws are so rigorous, as we know.
Of course.
What other options are there then for the war chest?
Yeah, another thing that he could do is he could give it over to the Democratic National Committee and they could try and spend it, but they would run into very similar issues that he would run into if he himself formed his own PAC. One other option is he could refund the money and then potentially go out there and ask the donors, hey, you should donate to this new person, but there's no guarantee that that would necessarily happen. I think the bottom line here, Jim, is really simple. If Harris is the presidential nominee, it's very easy to get the money to her. If it's not her, then it's a whole big ball of a mess.
Kamala Harris can get the money. Nobody else else can. Another reason why she might be coming in at number 2, or maybe now number 1. Lindsey Graham was out. He had a lot to say about this, and Dana doesn't like what he's saying. He's saying, you just talked about retribution. He says, hey, sorry, you guys started it. You launched the first missile. We told you don't do that because you're going to wreck our entire system, but you did it anyways. And now no one's above the law. Welcome to the new game.
President Trump a felon. Well, be careful what you wish for. I expect there will be investigations of Biden's criminality at the
Sure
border.
hope so.
If I'm Mayorkas, I should be worried that somebody's going to come after you because you've abused the parole statute. The Hunter Biden laptop, all 51 of the people who signed a letter saying the laptop was fake and Russian disinformation. Hope somebody looks at you because that's election interference. This country is going to have a resetting here, and using the Biden standard of glorifying political prosecutions, Pandora's box has been opened. Whether he steps down or not, accountability is coming to him.
I want to get to a couple of important issues, sir, but you just warned of retribution.
No one's above the law there, Dana.
I warned that the Pandora's box opened by the Democrats is going to be applied here. There should be an investigation of Mayorkas and Biden for abusing the parole statute that led to the murder of Laken Riley. They let the accused killer out because of lack of capacity. They paroled him illegally. I think the criminality of the Biden border policy should be looked at. We should look at how people lied about the Hunter Biden laptop being fake when it was real. Yeah, I expect people to look at that. You had a January 6th committee looking at what happened on January 6th. I hope there'll be a committee looking at border policies that have led to the rape and murder of lots of Americans, people from 18 to 30 dying by fentanyl poisoning coming through a broken border. Yeah, I hope that does happen.
All right, Lindsey Graham, sometimes a broken clock is even right, and he was pretty on fire on that one. I hope he is right. I hope he does something about it, because we'd like to see that as well. There were a bunch of deep staters who were absolutely involved in rigging the election and in orchestrating a conspiracy of criminality all across our country. There should be repercussions. No one's above the law. Political prosecutions are now in vogue in America, and when the Republicans retake the mantle of power, hopefully we enforce it as well. So we're going to be here continuing to cover this, my friends. Trump is going to continue to roast Kamala. Maybe he'll even be debating her soon. Who knows? But when that development comes, we'll be here to cover it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much, wherever you're watching this, for subscribing to our channel. Thank you for liking this video by hitting the like button. We'd love it if you had someone you know or loved who might enjoy this content. If you'd invite them over here, send them a short video so they can see some of the madness that is happening out there all across the fruited plain of America. We've got a lot of great stuff on our channel. If you missed our segment about Karine lying about Joe Biden's medical condition, we'll cue that one up for you next. Otherwise, my friends, we'll look forward to seeing you back here on the next one.